In this lesson, we're going to talk about getters and setters. When I'm referring to a getter and setter, I'm specifically referring to class variables and whether or not we can get them and view them, or we can set them. So I'm going to start off by creating a class. We'll call it getter setter. And then we'll put it in the classes. We'll keep it with sharing. We will remove the constructor, and then I'm going to start out by creating a public string. We'll have all these be static, or at least most of them be static. Public string, and I'll call it pub string. And then for in the string, we will say getting public string. And then private, we'll do a private one. We'll do private static string. And then we'll call it PRI string. And it'll be getting private string. The next thing that we'll do is we will create a couple of non-static strings. So we'll do a public string, we'll call it pub get string. And then what we're going to do for here is we're going to have curly braces and then get and then private set and then semicolons for both of them. And then we'll do public string, and then we'll do pub set string, and then same thing except we'll do a private get and then set. And then we'll save, and then I'm going to deploy. So what this is going to do is, now that we have the public string and private string, if you remember when we were talking about public and private, only public can be viewed outside of the getter and setter. However, now with lines 7 and 8, when we're talking about the this get and this set, we're able to specify what we want to do for a get and a set. So a get would be if we want to be able to get this value outside of the getter setter class, and if we wanted to set the value outside of. This would be whether or not we are restricting it to only be set within the class, or we can only set it outside and we can only get it. I haven't really seen much for setting it. The most common one that you'll see is either a private or protected set, and when we talk about virtual classes we'll go over protected sets. But what this means is that we have a public get and then a private set. So what we can do is just take a look, and I can do getter setter, and then we have public string. And then first I will debug this and that. Debug. And then I will modify the public string. Updated public string. And next we will debug the public string again. And I will run this. And again, because it's static, I don't have to create the class first. I can just get the strings, and you can see from the debug, getting public string, and then setting it, and then debugging it again for the updated public string. Now what we're going to try to do is we will see if we can, which we've done before, try to get the private string. And that gets an error because it's not visible because it's private. So the next thing that we'll do is we will we'll call it GS. We'll create a new GS class. And then we have GS dot pub get string and pub set string. So with the get is public and the set is private. So I'm going to grab the public get string while we're here. So pub get string. We will debug. Actually, this one, we don't have anything to debug it right now. So what I'm gonna do really quickly is create a public method that's going to set this private and then get this private as well, the private get. So we'll do public void set pub get string. We're going to take in a string. Just call it setter. And then we'll do this dot pub get string equal to setter. And then we will copy this and we'll call it, instead of set, it'll be get, and then pub set string, and then system debug the string. And we don't have it to we don't need to have any parameters in this one. And then we can deploy. Right, so going back to here, instead of the, let's see, first we need a set. So we can try to set. As we can see, variable is not visible. So then we can do gs dot set public get string, and then with the setter we can take this string for setting pub get, and then I'm going to comment out line 8. And then that went through, no errors, so we know that that sets it. So then what I can do next is I can debug and get the string. As we can see here, so we have that public method that's able to set the string. We weren't able to set it because it's a private set, so only the class can set it. And then we debugged the string after we were able to set it. And that is a public get, so we were able to get the string in the debug, so setting the pub string. So the next thing that we're going to do is we will do the opposite. So we have the public set and then the private get. So first if I try gs and then public set string, and debug. Now, one thing to note, that since we are not assigning, we are not setting. And that's how we know, or that's how Apex would be able to know when we are getting and when we are setting, because we are not using any assignment operator. So then when I run it, it says variable does not exist. Oh, that's why. It says the variable is not visible. Then what I can do is GS, we can set the string, setting string, and then this isn't calling a method, so this is just outside of the class where we're able to publicly set the string. And then I can debug, and then we can get the string. That's actually going to be a void, so if I just call this method, it's going to debug. And this is coming as null. Oh, shoot. We're debugging the wrong variable. And if we run that again, there we go. We can see that we set the string through public, and then through private with that public method, we were able to debug the string being set. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, the next thing that I wanted to show is that with getters and setters, you have the ability to change how you want to return or how you want to set the variable. The main thing that I'm going to go through is just how to return a different getter. So let's say I have a public static, and it'll be an integer variable. We'll call it doubler. So the plan for this is to, for whatever the doubler variable gets set as, is going to double and return when there's a get. So then if I have the curly braces and then I do get, and then within the get, I can do return doubler times 2. And then for the set, if I do doubler is equal to value. So this will then just set the value for doubler as whatever is assigned, and then the get will double that value. Then what we can also do is we can also, instead of it being static, if we want it to be within the class, we have integer, we'll call it tripler, and then just like the doubler, we'll do a get and then return tripler times 3, and then this time we'll set it to a private set. And then what we can do here is we can do a public method. We'll do public void, and then we'll call it set tripler. and then take an integer, call it tripler, and do this dot tripler, tripler. Okay. So this way we can publicly set doubler and then return it the value doubled. I can also debug just to show the doubler value. And then I can do the same with tripler. And then we save and deploy. And now I will go to here and we can comment out. I'll just remove these lines. So then we have the getter, setter, doubler. And this time we want to set the value. We'll do 3. And then I can do debug. And debug the getter, or the getter, setter, doubler. And as we can see, we set the value to be 3. When we did that, we returned 6. So we have the value that we debugged beforehand of 3, and then it returned 3 times 2. Next, what we can do, and now we have the tripler, which that one is not static. So we have to create the getter, setter class. And if I do GS, we will use the set tripler, and this time we'll put in 4, and then we'll debug, tripler. And so we set it to 4, and then, oh, I forgot to change this debug to from doubler to tripler, but this would be the tripler, which we set to 4, and then it tripled the value. So that's how you can use getters and setters. There's a lot that you can do with them because of that. You can make it so that a variable is public in some instances, private in others, and have different variations and ways in order to secure your class. A lot of the times I will see where you're able to get the value as a public, but the setting of the value is going to be private. That way there isn't anything else that can change the value aside from the class itself.